My name is Sam Prim, and I was just on the root of all success with the Real Jason Duncan. We got into a lot of topics. We talked about how Dave Ramsey called me a liar. We talked about how wealth is created through debt. And we really dug into some tangible things that people can utilize in their day-to-day lives to start to be more successful and create financial freedom. I had a ton of fun, and I'm excited for you to hear what we talked about and start to implement it in your life.
Welcome to the root of all success with the Real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of The Root of All Success, the Real Jason Duncan. The Real Jason Duncan.
So Dave Ramsey called you a liar on his national show. Like, I need to know the details. Why would he call you a liar?
Well, Dave called me a liar because as Dave gets more successful, he gets a little bit more stuck in his ways, which I guess is just human nature. Everything you touch turns to gold, so you think everybody else is wrong. And as he's gotten a little bit older and as he's gotten more arrows slung his way, he's gotten more defined in that debt is a bad thing and there is no possible scenario where debt wins because that puts chinks in his armor of no debt. And I am in $26 million worth of debt. And he saw a video of mine and did not believe that. So he took the valuable sweet time from his show to go ahead and rip me to shreds and tell me that I'm a liar and that it doesn't take an FBI trained detective to tell that I do not indeed have $26 million worth of debt, which I was very happy that he did that.
So have you or your team reached out to him to challenge him on this?
Oh, yeah, for sure. As soon as that came out, a couple people sent it to me, actually, and I was able to give a very, very snarky response because he was so negative. Like, me punching up at him is not a good look. If he didn't initiate it, right? So the fact that he punched down at my brand and me allowed me to be snarky back. But of course, I sent him and his team a message and we emailed them and said, would be glad to be on your show, come down and talk about, the differences and, try to see if we can have a great conversation. And that was met with crickets, of course, because again, nothing against Dave. He's built an incredible brand. I love that he called me a liar, but it doesn't do him any good if anybody that follows him thinks for a second that that is okay.
He's done. I don't watch him now like I used to back in the 90s. I was a huge fan, late 90s. As a matter of fact, my wife and I were some of the very first participants to go through Financial Peace University back in 96, I think 1996, when he was doing that in person. I was a big fan, called in the radio show. Obviously, now as an entrepreneur, I have a very, very different perspective. And I think that's where you're coming from, too, as an entrepreneur. He's not talking, his audience is not us. His audience is an employee, primarily. But, he's doing what I have seen on social media, because his team is doing a great job in social media, is these little clips where he's interviewing people like Alex Ramosi and Stephen Graham and some of these other people. And I think it was on Stefan's, when he was a guest, like, he point blank said, Dave, if you could borrow $1 billion, and I don't know if you saw this, if you borrowed $1 billion at 0% interest, would you do it? And he's like, no, I don't borrow money. So you're right. He's further entrenched than the no debt thing. But I'm surprised that with as many, you have 3 million followers on social. So you're not a chump. Like, you're doing really, really well. That's how I found you. I wonder why he wouldn't respond to you. It seems like you're in that league with that many followers to get him on the show. What do you think's the problem?
I don't know. Maybe it never made it to him because, he's obviously not the one on social media. I have a decent following, not like him, but I'm still very involved in the content, the ideation, the responding, the comments, all those kind of things, and the DMs that he is not. So my guess would be he gets so much hate and, things thrown his way that his team just kind of shields him from that. And it doesn't really matter how many followers you have, or they didn't look into me and what my following is. So I think there's that. And then also, again, it just doesn't do him any good if I come on his show, and I would be respectful. But if anybody leaves that show thinking that debt is okay, he just lost followers and lost a little bit of brand, not credibility. His brand's extremely credible, but it doesn't benefit him at all, in my opinion, from his angle, to have me on a show, because I can easily articulate that if you are responsible with debt, it is the best way for normal people to get ahead financially. Now, of course, you have to be responsible with money, but you're not going to get ahead. People don't make enough to save enough to invest enough to get ahead. They maybe save enough to like survive, but with the world and the way things are right now, it's really, really hard to get ahead just saving your cash. And if I'm able to poke holes in that and do it respectfully, it doesn't do him any good. So that's why I think it, but I guess I don't know for sure.
Well, here's an idea. I just thought of this. Why don't you do, because you're really good. Your socials are good. Your platform is really good. And I'm going to tell everybody how I first discovered you, which is I probably watched the same video Dave did, and I had a very different response to it, which is why we're here together today. But you should do one of those fake interviews, like where you're asking a question and then you're just playing something he said on one of his interviews. Obviously, don't make it look like it was real, but do not spoof, but like enough to where he says that and you come back and say, well, actually, Dave, this is what I think. And then I think
go back and forth on it.
Yeah, that might be actually, it might be entertaining, because you're right. It doesn't do him any good to have you on the show. Mm-mm. But I also think that, he's been a little bit more brave when having some of the people on his show, because we all know Alex Hormozi's in debt. We all know that. I mean, he talks about what he does with leverage. Stephen Graham, same thing. We know he uses leverage. So he is having people who disagree, but I think it's probably one of those deals where ahead of time they have to agree, we're not going to talk about these certain things. Now, you mentioned it in passing, but I want to call it out. You said you're in $26 million in debt. Sam, that is a lot of money. I can only assume that debt is dwarfed by the equity that you have. So tell me a little bit about the debt and the equity.
Yeah. So on the surface level, assets create wealth. I think everybody understands that concept. Your W job's fine. Other investing in other things are great, but like assets are what creates wealth, whether it's business or real estate. Those are the most common assets, I think, that most people would agree with. That if you own a business that's worth a lot of money, you're wealthy. Jeff Bezos's wealth is created through his equity in Amazon, right? And then there's people that don't start businesses that own real estate, and the equity in their real estate is what creates their wealth. And my goal is and was and always will be to create wealth. So I want to own assets that create that wealth for me. And especially when I got started, if you don't have enough money to buy those assets, are you SOL? Like, are you just like, I guess I'm never going to be wealthy? Or do you get creative and borrow money to buy those assets? And if you, at a very, very simple terms, what I do, and we can get into the numbers and I'll tell you about my exact equity and everything. But if you borrow money, which is getting into debt, to buy an asset that produces cash, and you take the cash that asset produces and you pay off the debt, you now own an asset, and that asset will create wealth for you over time, because that's what assets do, assuming it's managed properly. Of course, I'm assuming that you know how to manage that business or that real estate asset. So that's what got me involved. Is I don't have enough money to buy rental properties. Can I borrow money to buy rental properties and then take those rental properties and pay off who I borrowed the money from? And at the end of the day, I own a rental property now, and I didn't use any of my own money. Yes, that's exactly what I did. From one property to 300 properties, from zero in debt to 26 million in debt, from zero in assets to 50 million in assets. So to answer your question, I have about $24 million in equity because I'm in debt. And that's what the video talked about is, as long as I have equity and it cash flows, I'm going to continue to buy, because the more I buy, the more equity I have. So I have $24 million in equity because I'm in debt. If I wasn't in debt, I would not have $24 million in equity.
So your debt to asset ratio is almost double. Is that, am I hearing that
Pretty
right?
close. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've got 24 to the positive, 26 to the negative, but the 24 to the positive is above the zero line. So 26 is below zero. 24 is above zero. So if you no, there'd be more above zero. It'd be 48 above zero, right?
Yeah. 50 million is what it's worth. So we own a commercial building now, just bought a hotel. So about 50 million in owned and 26 million in debt. So if I were to sell everything now, obviously I couldn't sell it. Maybe I could sell it all as a package to private equity or something. But if I were to sell it all at market value right now, I'd sell it for 50 million. I would pay off 26 million in loans, and then I'd have 24 million in my pocket.
Why not do that?
That's what I did, and that's what I do. I just think the whole Dave thing, to kind of round that part out, is I think I always tell people, if you want to not be poor, go follow Dave. If you want to create wealth, you probably need to follow me. So that's my line of demarcation with people. If you want to not be poor and that's your mindset, probably Dave's your guy. But if you want to create more and do more and be more, then I think you're going to have to kind of peel behind that curtain and do a little bit more than save your money and pay off your house.
I'm processing that comment. I at first I didn't get it, but it sunk in now. If you don't want to be poor, Dave's good advice. But if you want to build wealth, you've got you and literally
other people. Yes, of course, other people. Yeah.
But today we're talking about Sam Prim, Faster Freedom. Follow Sam at Sam Faster Freedom on Instagram. That's how I found you. As a matter of fact, that video that I saw of you, I was just scrolling Instagram like we all do. And there was a video of you with one of your daughters. You have two daughters, Maisie and Eliza. I don't know which one you were holding, but you were walking around your house talking about, hey, I'm in debt, and I'm using debt to create wealth for my family. And there was something about that video that just, I like, okay, I like this message, because it wasn't it wasn't one of these Instagram bros where you're just showing your Lambos and your pool. Like, you had your daughter and you're walking around your house talking about the fact that debt's creating wealth for you. And I don't remember, you might have talked some other stuff in that video about faith or fam. I don't know what you talked about, but I remember whatever it was, I said, hey, you know what? I want to reach out to this guy. And that's how we end up here, where Dave sees it and says, that guy's a liar. It's two very different responses to the same video. I wonder why. So let's talk a little bit about the fact that you've got $50 million in these rental properties that you own, but you bought every single one of these without any money of yours. Like, it's always other people's money, OPM. All right. I don't own any real estate. Let's pretend I'm that guy. I have no real estate and I want to get into real estate. How do I get money? How do I go buy that property?
Yeah. So most people think that finding money is like an issue. Like, I can't get into real estate because I don't have any extra money, or, I need to save up my money for 3 years for a down payment. They just understand there's this market out there that understands that real estate is a really, really good investment. That's why the tax laws are beneficial towards real estate investors. That's why a ton of people are willing to fund these deals, because the government and investing companies and now hedge funds agree that real estate's a great place for your money. So it's not really hard to find the money if you know where to look. Most people just don't know where to look. Now, there's a ton of different funding sources we can break down or not, but in general, there is way more money waiting to invest in real estate deals than real estate deals available. So, a good real estate deal is going to be a distressed property that you can buy at a discount. And if you're able to get that, you can use private money or hard money to purchase the property and to fix it up. And then a bank will give you a loan to pay them off, and now you owe the bank money, and you take the rent to pay back the bank. So you're literally playing musical chairs with money. At the end of the day, you own the asset that is creating wealth for you. And it's just almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that you borrow money to buy it, you borrow money to pay off who you borrowed money to buy it from, and you take rent to pay back who you borrowed the money to pay them back with. So it's a little bit overwhelming for a lot of people, and we can break down specific deals if we want. But in general, I'm utilizing the BRRRR method, if anybody's familiar with that, to buy real estate, everything from single-family houses to apartment complexes to hotels, by leveraging money.
So the BRRRR method stands for buy, rehab. What's the next R?
Rent, refinance, and then scale. I change it to the BRRRR. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale. And I can break that down for the audience if you think it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us have heard about the BRRRR method, and we're not talking about Bill Burr, the comedian. We're talking about BRRR. It stands for something, and you've added the S at the end. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and then your deal is scale.
Yep.
So yeah, break that down a little bit on what that means and how we do it.
Yeah, so let's break down a simple example. I'm just going to use simple math because I'm not very smart, and I just want to keep it simple for anybody that's like driving or watching or doesn't want to do math and hurt their brain. So, what you do is the first step is buy. You buy a distressed asset. Let's say that you buy a house for $50,000. Let's just keep it simple. So you borrow money to buy a $50,000 house, and again, you can use private money, hard money, home equity line of credit, cash, whatever it is. You're borrowing money to buy a $50,000 house. It's distressed. So let's say it needs $25,000 worth of work. You borrow money, most likely from that same source, to rehab that house. So right now, you bought it and you fixed it up. Buy, rehab. You have $75,000 of somebody else's money in the deal, none of your own money. The next step is rent. You get the property rented. It's a fixed up property, super easy to rent. That's one of the beautiful things about the Bird method is you have fixed up properties and good tenants want fixed up property. So you get great tenants applying. You have your hand pick of really, really high quality tenants because you did a great rehab and it's a freshly rehabbed houses and people that can afford it want to live in, nicer houses. So you get it rented for, let's say, $1,200. The next step is the refinance step. This is where some people get a little bit confused. So I'll try to keep it simple. Basically, you take your property to a bank. They see that it's fixed up. They see that it's rented and they say, I want to give you a loan on this property. So they'll appraise it. Let's say it appraises for $100,000. You bought it, you fixed it up, makes a ton of sense. It appraised for $100,000. So they'll give you a loan for up to 80% of that. So that bank now hands me an $80,000 check. I take that check, I pay back my private lender their $75,000 plus $5,000 in interest. They made $5,000 in 5 months. They're happy, they're good. They made double-digit return. They're paid off. Now I do owe the bank $80,000, but I'm collecting $1,000 a month in rent. I take that rent and I pay the mortgage, the principal interest, the taxes, the insurance, everything with the rent. At the end of the day, I'll have a little bit of cash flow. But in general, now I own that property that I bought using none of my own money, that I'm maintaining using none of my own money. And real estate doubles in value every 15 years. So 15 years from now, it's going to be worth $200,000. And 15 years from now, I'll probably owe $50,000 on it. So then I'll have $150,000 equity on a property I bought using none of my own money. And there's a ton of other benefits that go along with owning real estate. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. Obviously, you can do it with bigger numbers, bigger properties, multiple properties. But that's kind of the base level understanding of using other people's money to buy real estate.
So where did you find what would you say purchase price was 50 and a $25 rehab cost? Where did you find the 75? Walk me through how someone would find that 75 grand.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub, and that's DUBB. What Dub does, I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
The two most common sources are private lenders and hard money lenders. So hard money lenders are companies that are in business to lend money to real estate investors that flip them and use the BRRRR method. They're familiar with it. They understand it. That's their whole business model. Now they're going to be a little bit more expensive because they're businesses. They may want some liquidity or equity from you, or they may want a little bit more from you to do the deal. But that's the whole purpose of their business. They're not profitable unless they're lending money to investors on fix and flips and BRRRR deals. So they want to do it. So you got to find them. They're super easy to find. You can Google them, local Facebook groups, local meetups. Like they're hard money lending companies. There's local ones and national ones. They'll do that. Now, the best thing to do and kind of the holy grail is these private money lenders. These are most people think they don't know a private money lender, but every single person listening right now knows a private money lender. They just may not know that. Like everybody thinks, and you know, but most people probably think a private money lender is a rich parent, a rich aunt and uncle, somebody with $10 million in the bank. That's not the case. Like here are my private lenders: an insurance agent, an engineer, a teacher, a police officer, a paramedic, an entrepreneur, and then I think a sales manager. They're like your private lenders are somebody you know that is in their 40s and 50s, that has a W-2 job, that has lived in the same house for 15, 20 years. Their kids are in high school. They're pretty conservative as far as investing goes. They have an IRA. They have a 401k. They don't do anything crazy with their money. They might not even be a millionaire, but they have extra money that they have access to either through a self-directed IRA, home equity line of credit, a CD, something that they are willing to give you because you're willing to tie it to that real estate asset. So they have security there. You're willing to personally guarantee it, and you're giving them a 12% return on their money. So again, it's going to take conversations. You're not going to text everybody in your phone and get a private lender. You might, but you're probably not. But it's just you got to start to think of it as normal, everyday people that are 10 or 15 years from retirement that are looking for a diversified stream of income. They're your conservative investors. That's the best ones, not your ultra risky entrepreneur that's out there going to give you money and maybe get his money back. They're just normal people. People just don't look at it through that lens.
So we're talking with Sam Prim of Faster Freedom today on the podcast. And I really think that we're getting more in the weeds in this show than we typically do. Normally it's more story based, but I think this is what's first of all, it's very intriguing to me as someone who I only have one piece of real estate that I own right now as an investment, and I'm losing money on it. That's a whole nother story. Have had to in the past that I made money on. But I think that listeners are going to be really interested in this. So I want to break down, if you don't mind, Sam, let's do like a mini masterclass for the next 5 minutes. All right. So this private money lender, the teacher, the salesman, the fireman, the entrepreneur, the people that we're going to go to, if I say, listen, I need, let's call it $100,000 because it's easy round numbers. So if I said, hey, I need $100,000 to do this deal, whether it's real estate, which is what you're talking about, or it's a business purchase, whatever it happens to be. But if I need 100 from this private money and I only want it for a short period of time, let's call it a year, 18 months at the most. How do you structure that deal so that the person you borrowed it from, mom, dad, parent, or teacher, fireman, all the people that you just mentioned, how do you structure it so that they are safe? I mean, I know safety is a relative term, but how do you structure that? Break that down for me.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the safest investment they're ever going to make is how I open it, because it's true. So there's kind of like the 4-pillar approach to safety is what I call it. And what we teach our students is there's 4 pillars to giving them a secure investment. The first one, and these are all optional, but most people do at least a couple of them, is you can personally guarantee it. And I've done that a ton and occasionally still do it. You're personally guaranteeing them that they're getting their money back. They're like, everybody says there's no skin in the game for you. Why would somebody lend it to you? Well, I'm putting my personal assets on the line that I'm going to pay you back. They don't get that with their stock investments. They don't get that with any other type of investment they have. So that's the first one, and that's the one that scares people. So that's an optional one. The second one is you add them as an additional insured on the insurance policy. It's free. We're talking real estate now. It's a free thing to do. When you get the property insured, you add them as an additional insured. House burns down, the insurance money is accessible by them and you. And then the third thing is you sign a promissory note. This kind of goes without saying potentially, but your LLC promises to pay them back with like legal terms of like the return schedule. And then the last thing, and probably the most secure thing, is you allow them, if they would like to be on the deed. They have foreclosable rights on the property if you don't pay them back in the promissory note's terms. So you're personally guaranteeing it. You're putting them on the insurance policy. You are signing a promissory note, and then you are allowing them to be on the deed or have a lien against the property until you pay them back, meaning they can, if you don't pay them back, they have ownership rights to the property. So that's really secure investment for them. They don't get that anywhere else. And you're offering a double digit return. 12% is usually what most of the time it is. So that $100,000 loan, if they have it out for 8 months, you pay them back $108,000. You have it out for 5 months, you pay them back $105,000 if it's that 12%. And you can go less if you want. But it's just a really safe investment backed by real estate. And that's why they're willing to take their chance on you, because of those things, 4 things. And you know them. They're a friend, a family friend, an acquaintance, somebody that, they're somebody that you have a relationship with. You're not going to go to somebody at the mall, not that people go to malls. You're not going to go to somebody at the mall and just ask them for money. It's somebody you do have a relationship with.
So do you, when you set this up, on the is 12% kind of the standard interest rate on or return rather on this deal?
It's usually 8 to 12 is kind of the range, but most people kind of start out at 12 and work their way down. I think we're like at 8 or 9% for most of our private money lenders, because we can't guarantee them their money. I guess we could, but what we tell them is 100% payment history. You've never not paid anybody back. Even if we've made money or not, everybody's always got their money and been made whole.
So 12% annual return is 1% per month, right? So if you borrow $100,000 and you have it for 8 months, it's $8,000. You have it 12 months, it's $12,000 for people that are doing the math, right? So that's how that works.
Exactly.
All right. So that's easy. That's easy to do. How much of your 26 million is PG?
None of it at this point. I mean, they all of it, most of it, probably 90% of it was the private money for the purchase and the rehab. But then it's all bank loans or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans now at this point. So all of that 26 million is long term debt now. Most of it's locked in at 3.95% for another 7 years. We did a whole portfolio refinance a couple of years ago before rates bumped up, but some of it's a little bit higher rate, but it's all that lower rate, long-term, type of mortgages, type of loans that allow you to cash flow, because you're not going to cash flow. And private lenders don't want to give you money for several years, but you're not going to cash flow doing a 30-year loan at 12% most likely, which is what private lenders are. So you need to high interest rate to buy them and fix them up, because banks don't want to lend to properties that need fixed up. They're only going to lend it to you if you're living in it or it's rented. So you got to get it to that point with private money or hard money that costs a little bit more. But then you get into the long-term lower rate financing that allows you to cash flow and pay back your initial lender.
So you're 36 now. When did you first start this?
Almost 10 years ago. 26 was when we started our first LLC. I think in September-ish of end of 2014 is when we got our first property done. So almost 10 years ago.
And you say we, is this you and your wife, or is this another partner?
So I have a business partner, Lucas. He was my best friend growing up, middle school, high school, college, bar fights, all that whole thing. And then we started investing on the side. And he sent me Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2012. I read it on my honeymoon, and we started talking about getting into this, and we each had jobs. And we started in 2014, and we both kind of did it on the side for 4 years, and then quit in 2018 and went all in.
So since 2018, you're a full-time investor. You don't have a day job. You don't have another business that you're running, other than you've got a coaching business that has over 1,600 students that own over $200 million in property. I mean, you've got that business going. So tell everybody a little bit about that business.
Yeah, and to kind of make your point is, I've always been a part-time investor, whether it's a full-time job or other businesses. I have 3 businesses: flipping company, rental portfolio, and education and brand. And I focus about 90% of my time on my education and my branding. So they are kind of part-time for me, but I've figured out ways to help scale those, and having a business partner is obviously a huge part of that. But yeah, I have the 3 million followers on social media, which is crazy, and the 1,700 students now. Actually, we just crossed that mark in my coaching mentorship program that is about 2.5 years old, almost 3 years old. So a lot of growth pretty quickly, because I teach people what I do every day. Like, we flip, we wholesale, we keep rentals, we do a lot of different things. So I'm able to cascade real-time, real-life knowledge directly into a community, which is a little bit rare in the space. You said earlier, there's a lot of those social media that flexing on Lambos and things like that, right? Like, I flex on my assets. Most people flex on their liabilities. So there's a big difference there. So that allows me to be a little bit different on social media, which I think garners some attention, because I'm not bragging about money. I'm bragging about debt or houses. So I do it all day, every day. And then now we have a program and a coaching program and a community of, like you mentioned, 1,600, 1,700 people now, where there's no like secret formula. We just take the systems and processes that we create on the front lines in our businesses, and we dilute them and cascade them down to the students. We have coaching available, and we kind of walk them through doing what we did and starting from scratch on how to do it.
All right. So you've been obviously very successful, and I want to ask you some questions about your success. But before I get to those questions about your success, what's the worst deal you've done? I mean, where you had to have a loser in this deal that you
A
remember.
ton
Like,
of them.
tell us a gory story, because I think people think that people like you, like it just silver spoon, like everything worked out. You've never lost any money. You've never almost been bankrupt. So give us a gory truth about some deal you lost on.
Oh yeah, so we lose money all the time on deals. I mean, I don't want to say all the time, but like, I mean, we do 250, 300 deals a year. There's a handful of those, probably 5 or 10 of them every year that are stinkers. But the first one that comes to mind on one of the worst deals I've done was a self-storage deal that we bought. So, at this time it was 2020, and we'd had some pretty good success, as you mentioned. And of course, everything we do is great. We're super great. So we're great at apartments and houses. How hard can self-storage be? Let's just get into self-storage is what we decided, because we're so cool. So we bought a self-storage facility that was like a mom and pop. It was inherited by some kids. It had like 4 signs out front, no website, 66 units, and it came with 2 acres next to it. So we're like, all right, let's buy this. We can rehab and paint these units and get the metal looking good and make it and get a website and obviously value add there. And since we're so good, let's build some self-storage next to it. How hard can it be? So we were in an asset class that was new to us, that we hadn't even proven ourselves into yet, but let's tackle it. So we redid the units. It looked great. We built a couple small buildings. We got builder's risk insurance on it, did it like putting Legos up, super easy, hired a contractor, 2 small buildings that we added. And then we were going to do outdoor boat and RV storage. Like, makes sense in the empty lot part of it. So we started to do that. And then we thought, well, let's outthink the room. Let's double down on the asset that we haven't proven ourselves on, and let's do indoor boat and RV storage. So after the fact, we decided to build a 255-foot long, 20-foot high building to store boats and RVs. And through that process of construction, not knowing how to do it and hiring a contractor that didn't know how to go that high up and build that big of a structure, we had the building blow over in like a strong windstorm.
Oh my gosh.
And then a month later, it blew over again. And then the third time there was a tornado in the area, and it blew the back 255 square or long wall across the road. Luckily, nobody was on the road because of the storm. And at that point, the city was calling us, and we're like, all right, I think this is a sign. Let's not do this building. Let's get the insurance back on everything and just scrap it and sell it. But I didn't set up insurance on that third building because it was an afterthought. So we were just out of pocket about 150 grand in materials and labor because I didn't set up insurance on it, because it was an afterthought and we were trying to maximize and outsmart it. So we ended up tearing it, scrapping it, and being out about 150 grand on that deal. Luckily, there's plenty of equity there because we got a good deal on it. We bought it around COVID timeframe, and it went from a really good deal to an okay deal. Through a screw up, which I think is a great metaphor of real estate. If you buy it right, you can screw up a lot and still not, lose your butt too bad.
Sam, this is God. I'm going to blow the building over as many times as it takes to tell you to get out of the self-storage.
Exactly. That was the act of God, 100%. That's what I told the insurance agent. He's like, it was, but you don't have insurance on it. So,
oh my gosh. Okay. So if you had to look back over your 10 years of doing this at a high level, because there's a lot of people that play in your space, but they're not doing it at the high level that you are. I mean, you've created an 8-figure, I'm assuming 8-figure plus net worth as a result of this. But if you had to kind of isolate your key to success, like this one thing has allowed me to be successful and unlock that door to success, what is it?
The number one skill that I have worked on intentionally and unintentionally that I think has allowed me to do all this is leverage. Leveraging other people's knowledge, skills, and money. I joke that I get 400 hours of work done every day because I have employees and team members that are working for the company that I own, and they're making good wages and they're getting profit and everything, but it works towards a company that I own. So understanding the power of leverage and, utilizing minimal effort for maximum mutually beneficial results with somebody else is the key that has unlocked everything. I've seen other successful people do it. I do it with Lucas and my other team members. Is I'm able to get a lot done because I leverage other people's skills, my contractors and employees and team members. I leverage other people's knowledge. I spend about 150 grand a year on furthering my education. I pay money to be in rooms of people that are smarter, better than me. I take their knowledge, I implement it, and twice now I've worked my way up in that room and been the person that people go to for advice. And I've gotten uncomfortable again and paid more money to be in a bigger room where I'm the smallest person in the room again, and I leave that room. So I think the biggest thing, again, the one word I can describe it as, there's a lot of nuances, is leverage. Just utilizing leverage to get a lot done that a lot of people want to do it all themselves, or don't trust somebody, or want to have the pride to roll up their sleeves and think that they're the only ones that can do it the right way. So I leverage the crap out of things to help grow and scale.
So how do you personally define that word success? What does that mean to Sam Prim?
Yeah, everybody has different levels of it. I would say, in general, my definition of the success would be doing what you want, when you want, with who you want. Just kind of being in control over what you do and how you do it is success to me. Whether that means you're making $1 million a year or $1 million a month, the money's not really that much of a measuring stick to me. It's more of somebody that's able to do what they want, when they want, with who they want.
By that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
Most of the time. There are times that I feel like I'm not, because I can't do that, because I want to own $1 billion in real estate. I want to potentially own an NBA team, and I have bigger goals and aspirations. If I were to sit pat, then yes. But the fact that I continually push myself and am in situations where I'm working, a lot and extending my time and maybe potentially doing things I don't want to do to help move the needle. So that's where, if you're using my definition, most of the time I'd say I'm successful, but I think success is more of a journey than a destination. So along the journey, there are times when I am and times when I'm not.
So let's give you the opportunity to put your coach / consultant / advisor hat on for a second. So if you had to talk to the audience and to give them the one golden piece of advice that they need to take their lives, their business, their ventures to the next level, and you can't talk about leverage because you've already used that one, you got to go to something different. Like, what's that one thing that you would say, hey, this is my piece of advice?
My piece of advice to anybody watching is that failure is a part of the path to success. If you avoid failure, you exactly avoid success. You're not going to be successful without failing. I see so many people that are afraid to make that mistake, and they're afraid to fail, and they don't know it, but they're literally stopping themselves from being successful. You're not going to be successful unless you fail. I wish there was another way around it. I am fortunate enough to know a lot of people that are way more successful than I am. And the more successful you are, the more you fail. It goes hand in hand. It is literally a step on the path. Try something, fail, learn, grow, fail again, grow, learn again, learn again. Oh, you're failing again. It is part of the walking path to success. So just knowing that, I think, for people, knowing that while you shouldn't maybe seek out failure, you shouldn't avoid it either. As long as you're learning from it, you're not failing. I think that word just gets caught in so many people's mind. When you were younger doing a math problem, you did it wrong. Your teacher corrected you, did it right. You didn't fail. You just learned, and then you got it right the next time. So I think restructuring your thought process around failure and trying to avoid it will help a lot of people. I know it's a little woo-woo and it's not like tangible, but it's very, very important in my opinion. Just being okay with failure and having the expectation that it is part of the journey and you are going to fail eventually, maybe not next week, maybe not next month, but soon. And being okay with that and being able to adapt, it will make all the difference. And I think somebody that actually takes that in and takes it to heart and starts to like try to feel it will notice a huge difference.
So when your building blows over 3 times in a row, just like chalk it up to, hey, I'm becoming more successful.
Hey, we've done a couple other development deals and we got great insurance every time. Lesson learned.
Oh my gosh. Well, Sam, I really, really, I'm so glad that you accepted my, read the DM and we got to connect on this show. I actually am going to be a guest on your show. Tell everybody about your show, the Faster Freedom Podcast, because I'm going to be a guest on, we're recording this Friday. I don't know when it's going to come out, but everybody go check that out. Tell everybody about your show.
We are not as buttoned up as you, so it's recorded Friday. It's coming out Friday. So
okay.
What we do on that show is, as I mentioned, Lucas earlier, my business partner, he kind of manages the flipping company, the rental company. I focus on the education company and the finance department. So we kind of divide and conquer. And he's doing things, and we're really good friends, and we don't see each other that much during the day, sometimes even. So what we do is we record twice a week the Faster Freedom Show podcast, and it's something that Lucas and I do together. It's the only content that we shoot together. We've been friends for 25 years, been in the bar fights, all the crazy stuff. So we have a lot of really cool stories, and we just bring people along in our journey. We talk life and sports and real estate, and it's just basically two guys hanging out for an hour twice a week. And we have guests on Fridays. You're going to be the guest on Friday, and we'll talk a little bit, but it's just a kind of a direct into the vein of our business. We talk numbers, we talk real life scenarios, and we have deals that we go through, and we just give everybody kind of a inside look at our businesses and our personal lives, and just talk through everything and have fun. And it's great chemistry because, again, we've known each other for 25 years. So it's just a lot of fun, honestly. It does okay as a podcast, but it's honestly just more fun and more time for me and him to hang out. It's just recorded.
Well, by the time this show releases and my listeners are listening to this, I will have already been a guest on your show.
Yep.
So everybody go check that out, fasterfreedom.com. That's Sam's website, fasterfreedom.com. You can find the Faster Freedom podcast, I assume, on YouTube and all the podcast players. And if you are on X, you can find him at Faster Freedom. If you're on Facebook, you can find him at Faster Freedom. If you're on YouTube, just look up the Faster Freedom Show. And then where I found him, Sam, I found you on Instagram at Sam Faster Freedom, at Sam Faster Freedom, and you can check it out. He does videos about his debt and about his lifestyle and about his family and how you can become free. So, Sam, big honor for you to be on the show today. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate you having me.
Well, there you have it. Another successful entrepreneur about his journey to success. I love talking to people like Sam and how they have built successful businesses, successful lives. And I love the lifestyle aspect. And we didn't really talk a lot about this, but I think you get the sense of hearing Sam talk about his life and what he's built, is that he's built a lifestyle. And he alluded to some goals, bigger goals, like owning an NBA team that is leading to this lifestyle that he wants. And he's doing this through appropriate leverage. And he's leveraging not just money, but you heard him say that it's leverage of other people, knowledge, and information, et cetera. So what are you leveraging? Now, you're obviously listening to a podcast today, so you're leveraging a little bit of other people's knowledge. So continue to do that. Continue to leverage other people's knowledge. Go buy a book. Go buy a course. Go listen to YouTube. Listen and watch YouTube videos. Listen to other podcasts. Hire a coach. Join a mastermind. Be the dumbest person in the room. Sam, he didn't use that phrase, but that's what he was talking about. Be the guy in the room that everybody else is doing better than, so that you can get up to the top level and then get into a different room. This is what leverage is. It's not just money. It's about other things as well. So thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe, follow, leave comments. This is how we get in front of people. But thank you for tuning in. I'll talk to you again next time when I interview another person as equally successful as Sam. And I think we're going to have another great conversation. So big thanks to Sam and the team at Faster Freedom for being on the show today. As always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.